I never thought a gallery opening would be the place where my entire world would shatter into a million pieces. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm 42 years old, and I've been married to David for 15 years. 15 years of what I thought was a solid, loving marriage. We didn't have children, which was a mutual decision we made early on, choosing instead to focus on our careers and each other. Or at least, that's what I believed. That Thursday evening started like any other. I was getting ready for the opening of a new art gallery downtown. My best friend Sarah Mitchell had been raving about it for weeks. She's an attorney, sharp as a knife, and she has this way of making everything sound exciting. David told me that morning he couldn't join us because he had an important business dinner with potential clients from Seattle. He kissed my forehead, straightened his tie, and said he'd probably be home late. I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? In 15 years, he'd never given me a reason to doubt him. I wore my favorite black dress, the one that made me feel confident and elegant. Sarah picked me up at 7, and we drove downtown, talking about work, life, and her latest disastrous date. The gallery was in a converted warehouse in the art district, all exposed brick and modern lighting. As we walked in, I felt sophisticated, happy, completely unaware that in the next 30 seconds, my life would never be the same. The room was filled with well-dressed people holding champagne glasses, admiring abstract paintings that probably cost more than my car. Sarah headed toward the bar while I wandered through the crowd, taking in the artwork. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but no, that was definitely David's profile near the back of the gallery. My heart did a little jump. What a nice surprise, I thought. Maybe his dinner ended early and he decided to come find me. I started walking toward him, a smile forming on my lips, ready to surprise him. But then I saw her, a stunning woman with long dark hair, wearing a red dress that probably cost a fortune, standing impossibly close to my husband. Her hand was on his chest, and they were laughing together in that intimate way that couples do. My steps slowed, my smile faded, and then, as if the universe wanted to make absolutely sure I understood what I was seeing, he leaned down and kissed her. Not a peck on the cheek, a real kiss. The kind of kiss that spoke of familiarity, comfort, and something much deeper than a casual affair. My entire body went cold. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. People walked past me, their conversations fading into white noise. All I could see was my husband with another woman, acting like I didn't exist. Sarah appeared beside me, 2 glasses of champagne in her hands. She followed my gaze, and I heard her sharp intake of breath. "Jennifer," she whispered, her attorney instincts immediately kicking in. "Don't make a scene. Let's think about this." But I wasn't thinking. I was moving. My legs carried me forward through the crowd, pushing past people with their stupid champagne and their stupid conversations about art they didn't understand. David saw me before I reached them. I watched the color drain from his face. The woman turned, following his horrified gaze, and when her eyes met mine, she didn't look surprised. She didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed. "David?" I said, my voice somehow steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. The woman sighed, and set down her champagne glass with a delicate clink. "You must be Jennifer," she said, her voice smooth and educated. "I'm Vanessa." I stared at her, then at him, then back at her. She knew my name. She knew who I was. And she was standing here, in public, with her hand still resting possessively on my husband's arm. "Jennifer," David finally found his voice. "This isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed. It was such a cliché, such a pathetic thing to say when caught red-handed. "Really?" I said, my voice rising slightly. "Because it looks like you're at an art gallery with another woman when you told me you had a business dinner in Seattle." Vanessa tilted her head, studying me with something that looked disturbingly like pity. "Seattle?" She turned to David with raised eyebrows. "You told her Seattle?" "David, honey, we talked about this. You need to stop lying to everyone." The word honey hit me like a physical blow. Sarah was suddenly beside me, her hand gripping my elbow, ready to pull me away if needed. But I couldn't move. I needed answers. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. David looked at the floor. Vanessa, however, met my eyes directly. 6 years, she said simply, as if she was telling me the time or commenting on the weather. 6 years. The words echoed in my head, refusing to make sense. 6 years meant this affair had started just 9 years into our marriage. 6 years of lies, deception, and betrayal. All those business trips, late nights at the office, weekends he spent golfing with colleagues. How many of those were actually spent with her? I felt Sarah's grip tighten on my arm as my knees threatened to give out. But what came out of my mouth surprised even me. 6 years, I repeated, my voice growing stronger. And you're still married to me, David. Still living in our house. Still sleeping in our bed. Vanessa's confident expression faltered for just a moment. What? She turned to David, her perfectly manicured hand dropping from his arm. You said you were separated. You said you were just waiting for the right time to file the papers? Oh, this was rich. He'd lied to both of us. David's face went from white to red. Vanessa, let me explain. No, she cut him off, her voice sharp. You said your marriage was over. You said you were practically divorced. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. I've been waiting for you to make this official for 2 years, David. 2 years of you promising it was almost done. I watched this unfold with a strange sense of detachment, like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice cutting through their argument. You've been lying to me for 6 years about where you are and who you're with, and you've been lying to her about our marriage being over. David, congratulations. You've managed to betray 2 women at once. People around us had started to notice the commotion. Heads turned, conversations quieted. Sarah stepped closer, her lawyer voice firm and low. Jennifer, we should go. We can handle this properly with attorneys. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Something else was nagging at me, a detail I couldn't quite grasp. The business trips, the expensive gifts David had been giving me lately, seemingly out of nowhere. The way our savings account had been mysteriously depleted over the past year. David, I said slowly, where's our money? He looked confused, still trying to figure out how to salvage this disaster. What? Our savings account. The retirement fund. Where is it? His expression changed, a flash of guilt crossing his features before he could hide it. That's when I knew. Oh my God, I breathed. You've been spending our money on her. Vanessa's head snapped up. What money? She looked at David with growing horror. You said you were financially stable. You said you were ready to start our life together. The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. The luxury vacations David had taken for work. The new car he'd bought 6 months ago, supposedly through a company lease. The expensive jewelry he'd given Vanessa because I recognized the bracelet on her wrist. I'd seen the charge on our credit card statement, and David had said it was a business gift for a client. How much? I asked, my voice deadly calm. How much of our money have you spent on your other life? David's silence was answer enough. Sarah had her phone out, already typing notes. This is financial infidelity, Jennifer. In our state, this significantly impacts the divorce settlement. I barely heard her. I was too busy watching Vanessa's face as she processed what this meant. She'd been played just as much as I had, just in a different way. You bastard, Vanessa hissed at David. You told me you were divorced. You let me wait, plan a future, while you were stealing from your actual wife to fund our relationship. She turned to me, and for the first time, I saw genuine emotion in her eyes. Anger? Yes, but also humiliation. I didn't know, she said. I swear I didn't know he was still married. Not really married. He said it was just paperwork, that you two had been separated for years. I wanted to hate her. Part of me did, but another part recognized that she was a victim too, just a different kind. David had lied to both of us, manipulated both of us, and destroyed both of our lives for his own selfish desires. The gallery owner was approaching, clearly uncomfortable with the scene unfolding in his establishment. I held up a hand. We're leaving, I said. Then I looked directly at David. You have until tomorrow morning to move out of our house. I'll be staying at Sarah's tonight, and when I come back, I want you gone. But Jennifer, he started, reaching for me. Don't touch me, I said, stepping back. Don't call me. Don't text me. The only communication I want from you is through attorneys. Understand? He nodded miserably. Vanessa was already walking away, her heels clicking sharply on the polished concrete floor. She'd thrown David one last disgusted look before disappearing into the crowd. Good for her, I thought distantly. Sarah guided me out of the gallery and into the cool night air. I could hear the murmur of gossip starting behind us, but I didn't care. Let them talk. My marriage was over, publicly and spectacularly. But at least now I knew the truth. In Sarah's car, the reality of what had just happened finally hit me. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. 15 years, I whispered. 15 years of my life with a man who was living a completely different life behind my back. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. I know, honey. I know. But listen to me. You're going to get through this. And we're going to make sure you get everything you deserve in the divorce. He committed financial infidelity. He hid assets. He lied about marital funds. This is going to be very, very expensive for him. Her words should have comforted me, but all I felt was numb. How did I not see it? I asked. 6 years, Sarah. How did I miss 6 years of lies? Because you trusted him, she said simply. Because that's what you do in a marriage. You trust your partner. It's not your fault that he betrayed that trust. We drove to her house in silence. She set me up in her guest room, brought me tea I didn't drink, and sat with me until I finally fell into an exhausted sleep. But even in sleep, I couldn't escape. I dreamed of David and Vanessa, laughing at me, spending my money, living their secret life while I played the dutiful wife at home. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by something much more dangerous. Anger. Cold, focused anger. I wasn't going to just roll over and let David destroy me. I was going to fight back, and I was going to win. Sarah was already up, coffee made, sitting at her kitchen table with her laptop open. She looked up when I walked in. Good. You're awake. I've been doing some research. We need to move fast. What did you find? I asked, pouring myself coffee. She turned her laptop toward me. I pulled David's financial records from the preliminary searches. Jennifer, this is worse than we thought. He's been siphoning money from your joint accounts for years. But here's the interesting part. She pointed to a series of transactions. These payments aren't just gifts to Vanessa. He's been investing in something. A business, maybe. Something he's been hiding from you. My pulse quickened. What kind of business? That's what we need to find out. But if he's been using marital assets to invest in a business without your knowledge or consent, that's a major issue. It means you're entitled to half of whatever he's built, plus compensation for the deception. Sarah's eyes gleamed with the thrill of the chase. She loved complicated cases, and this was shaping up to be very complicated indeed. I need to know everything, I said. Every lie, every hidden account, every secret investment. Can you help me? She smiled. Jennifer, I've been waiting for you to ask. I'm not just your friend. I'm your attorney now. And trust me, by the time we're done, David is going to regret every single lie he ever told you. We spent the rest of the morning mapping out a strategy. Sarah called a colleague of hers, a forensic accountant who specialized in uncovering hidden assets in divorce cases. Then she called a private investigator, Marcus Chen, who'd worked on several of her high-profile cases. Marcus arrived at Sarah's house around noon. He was in his late 40s, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. He listened quietly as I recounted the entire story, occasionally making notes in a small leather notebook. When I finished, he leaned back and tapped his pen against his lips thoughtfully. 6 years is a long time to maintain a double life, he said, which means there's going to be a significant trail. Paper trails, digital footprints, witness accounts. The question is, how deep do you want me to dig? As deep as it takes, I said without hesitation. I want to know everything. Where they went, what he spent, who knew about this. I want his entire secret life exposed. Marcus nodded approvingly. That's what I like to hear. He pulled out a contract. I'll need access to any shared accounts, passwords if you have them, and a list of anyone who might have information. Friends, co-workers, family members. I thought about that last one. Family members. David's mother, Patricia, had always been kind to me. Would she have known? The thought made my stomach turn. Start with his mother, I said. Patricia Walsh. She lives in Rosewood, about an hour from here. Marcus wrote down the name. Family members are tricky. They often know more than they let on, but getting them to talk can be challenging. Leave it to me, he said confidently. Within 3 days, Marcus called with his first report. Jennifer, you need to sit down for this. I was at Sarah's house again. She'd insisted I stay with her until David had completely moved out and I'd changed all the locks. I sat down on her couch, my heart already racing. What did you find? Your husband, Marcus began, has been living an entirely separate life. Not just an affair, a whole separate identity. He has an apartment in the downtown district, registered under Vanessa Carter's name but paid for with withdrawals from your joint savings. He's been using that apartment as his primary residence for the past 3 years. 3 years. While I thought he was working late or traveling for business, he was actually living with her. The bedroom we shared had become nothing more than a set piece for the lie of our marriage. There's more, Marcus continued. The business investments Sarah found? They're real. David and Vanessa started a consulting firm together 2 years ago. Optimal Solutions, LLC. It's been moderately successful, bringing in about $200,000 annually. Money that should legally be half yours since it was funded with marital assets. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. So they weren't just having an affair. They were building a life together, a business, a future. All while I was at home, believing my husband when he said he was working late to secure our future. But here's where it gets interesting, Marcus said, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. Vanessa Carter is married. I blinked. What? She's married. Has been for 8 years. Her husband's name is Brian Carter, works in pharmaceutical sales, travels a lot. And from what I can tell, he has no idea about the affair either. The irony was almost too much. David had been cheating on me with a woman who was also cheating on her husband. It was a tangled web of lies and betrayal that would have been funny if it wasn't my life being destroyed. Does Brian know yet? I asked. Not unless someone tells him, Marcus replied. But I think he deserves to know, don't you? An idea was forming in my mind. A way to make David and Vanessa face the full consequences of their actions. Marcus, I need you to contact Brian Carter. Arrange a meeting. I think it's time all the betrayed spouses got together and compared notes. Sarah was looking at me with a mixture of concern and admiration. Jennifer, what are you planning? I'm planning to make sure they don't get away with this, I said firmly. David thought he could have 2 lives, spend our money building a future with another woman, and face no real consequences. But he was wrong. They both were. The meeting with Brian Carter happened 3 days later at a coffee shop downtown. He was a nice-looking man in his mid-30s, with the kind of genuine smile that made me understand why Vanessa had married him. When Marcus introduced us and explained why we were there, I watched that smile die completely. My Vanessa, he said, his voice hollow. You're telling me my wife has been having an affair for 6 years with your husband? And they started a business together? I nodded, sliding copies of the documents Marcus had gathered across the table. Financial records, photographs, emails that Marcus had managed to recover from a shared cloud account. Brian looked through them with growing horror. All those conferences she went to, he murmured. All those weekend trainings. I was so proud of her career success. I never questioned it. I know how you feel, I said softly. We both trusted people who didn't deserve it. He looked up at me, and I saw my own pain reflected in his eyes. What do we do now? Now, Sarah interjected, we make sure they face consequences. Both of you have grounds for divorce based on adultery and financial misconduct. The business they started with marital assets belongs partially to both of you, and any assets they've hidden can be uncovered and divided appropriately. Brian's jaw clenched. I want to confront them. Together. If they've been living this secret life as a couple, then they can face us as a couple too. I liked Brian. He had the same fire I was feeling, the same need for justice. I'm in, I said. Sarah held up a hand. Wait. If you're going to do this, we need to do it smart. Confrontation is fine, but it needs to be strategic. You need to think about the long game. What do you really want out of this? I want them to lose everything they built on lies, I said. I want the business dissolved and the assets divided. I want David to face public humiliation the way I did at that gallery. I want everyone who thought we had a perfect marriage to know the truth about what he really is. And, I added, meeting Sarah's eyes, I want every penny of our money back, plus interest. Brian nodded in agreement. Same. Vanessa has been pulling money from our accounts too. I thought she was investing in her career. Turns out she was investing in her affair. Sarah pulled out her legal pad. Okay, here's what we're going to do. The confrontation happened 1 week later. Sarah and Marcus had been busy. They'd gathered irrefutable evidence of the affair, the financial misconduct, and the hidden business assets. They'd also filed preliminary divorce papers for both me and Brian, papers that included claims on the business and all associated assets. We chose to confront them at the offices of Optimal Solutions, LLC. Their business, their shared dream, the place they'd built together while destroying 2 marriages. Sarah had arranged for a conference room in the same building, just down the hall from their office. When David and Vanessa arrived for what they thought was a meeting with potential clients, they found Brian and me instead, with Sarah and Marcus flanking us, and a stack of legal documents on the table. The look on David's face when he saw me sitting there with Brian was almost worth all the pain he'd caused. Almost. Vanessa went pale, her eyes darting between her husband and her lover. What is this? She demanded, trying to regain her composure. This, Sarah said calmly, is a reckoning. She slid divorce papers across the table. Jennifer Walsh versus David Walsh, and Brian Carter versus Vanessa Carter. You're both being sued for divorce on grounds of adultery, with additional claims for financial misconduct and misappropriation of marital assets. David found his voice. Jennifer, come on, we can talk about this privately. No, I said firmly. We can't. Because there is no private with you, David. You made our private life a public spectacle at that gallery. Now you get to face the consequences just as publicly. Brian stood up, his hands shaking slightly. Vanessa, 6 years. You've been lying to me for 6 years. Those conferences, those training weekends, you were with him, building a business, building a life, while I was at home believing every word you said. Vanessa's mask finally cracked. Brian, I can explain. No, you can't, he said, his voice breaking. There's no explanation that makes this okay. Marcus stepped forward. Let's talk numbers. Optimal Solutions. LLC has assets totaling approximately $350,000. It was funded initially with money taken from both the Walsh and Carter marital accounts without consent. According to state law, that makes both Jennifer and Brian entitled to portions of this business. You can't do that, David said desperately. We built this company. We worked for it. With our money, I reminded him. Money you stole from our savings account, our retirement fund, our joint checking. Money I earned just as much as you did. You don't get to steal from me and then claim you built something on your own. The meeting lasted 2 hours. By the end, both David and Vanessa had been served with divorce papers, restraining orders preventing them from accessing certain joint accounts, and notices of pending forensic audits of all their financial dealings. As we left the building, Brian turned to me. Thank you, he said quietly, for finding me, for being brave enough to do this. I nodded. We betrayed spouses need to stick together. He smiled sadly. If you ever need anything, I'm here. Same goes for me. We exchanged numbers, 2 strangers bonded by the shared experience of having our lives upended by people we loved. The divorce proceedings took 8 months. 8 months of depositions, financial audits, court appearances, and endless paperwork. But Sarah was relentless. She uncovered every hidden account, every secret transaction, every lie David had told. The forensic accountant found that David had siphoned nearly $200,000 from our marital accounts over the years. Money spent on Vanessa, on their apartment, on their business, on a lifestyle I knew nothing about. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor on nearly every count. I was awarded 60% of all marital assets as compensation for David's financial infidelity. This included our house, most of our savings, and my stake in Optimal Solutions, LLC. David was ordered to pay spousal support and to reimburse me for the money he'd stolen. Brian received a similar judgment. Vanessa was ordered to pay him compensation and to give up her share of the business she'd built with my husband. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was watching David's face as the judge read the verdict. It was seeing him realize that his lies had cost him everything. His marriage, his reputation, his business, his money. And Vanessa lost her marriage too. Brian divorced her without a second thought, taking his share of their assets and moving to a new city to start fresh. The most unexpected twist came from David's mother, Patricia. 2 months into the divorce proceedings, she'd called me. Jennifer, dear, I need to talk to you. We met at a small cafe on the edge of town. Patricia looked older than I remembered, tired and sad. I need you to know, she began, that I didn't know about Vanessa. Not for the first few years anyway. David kept it very well hidden. But about 2 years ago, I started to suspect something was wrong. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. Because I confronted David first, she said. I told him he needed to end it and be honest with you. Or I would tell you myself. He promised me he would. He swore he was going to break it off with her and fix his marriage. She wiped at her eyes. I believed him. I thought he was doing the right thing. But he just got better at hiding it, didn't he? I nodded. Patricia reached across the table and took my hand. I'm so sorry, Jennifer. You've been nothing but good to this family, and my son repaid you with lies and betrayal. If there's anything I can do to help you through this divorce, anything at all, please let me know. Her support meant more than I expected. She testified in court about David's deception, about the conversation where he'd promised to end the affair. Her testimony strengthened my case significantly. David had been furious, accusing his own mother of betrayal, but Patricia stood firm. I raised you better than this, she'd told him in the courthouse hallway. I taught you about honor and honesty. What you did to Jennifer is unforgivable. Now, 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I'm rebuilding my life. I kept the house, had it redecorated completely, removing every trace of David from the rooms we once shared. I've thrown myself into my work, earning a promotion to senior marketing director. The money from the divorce settlement has been invested wisely, securing my financial future. Vanessa and David's relationship didn't survive the consequences of their actions. Last I heard, they'd broken up shortly after both divorces were finalized. Apparently, when their secret affair became public knowledge and cost them both their marriages and most of their money, the romance died pretty quickly. They've both left the city, gone to start over somewhere where people don't know their story. Brian and I remain friends. We meet occasionally for coffee, two people who understand each other's experience in a way few others could. He's dating someone new, a kind woman who works as a teacher. He seems happy, or at least happier than he was. As for me, I'm not ready for romance yet. Maybe someday. But for now, I'm focusing on myself, on healing, on becoming the woman I was always meant to be. The other day, I was at a gallery opening, a different one, with Sarah. We were admiring a painting when a man approached me, complimented my insights about the artwork, and asked if he could buy me a drink. He was handsome, charming, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. I smiled politely and declined. Not because I wasn't interested, but because I've learned something important over the past year. I've learned that I don't need someone else to complete me. I don't need a relationship to define my worth. I'm complete on my own. But I also learned something else. I learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew. Strong enough to face betrayal and come out fighting. Strong enough to demand justice and not settle for less. Strong enough to rebuild my life from the ground up and make it even better than before. David thought he could have his cake and eat it too. He thought he could maintain two lives indefinitely, lying to everyone, taking what he wanted without consequences. But he was wrong, and now he's paying the price for every lie, every betrayal, every dollar he stole. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment in the gallery when I saw them together. How my world shattered in an instant. How everything I believed about my life turned out to be false. It still hurts. I won't pretend it doesn't. 15 years is a long time to invest in someone, and having that investment revealed as worthless is devastating. But I've learned to sit with that pain, to acknowledge it without letting it consume me. And I've learned that revenge isn't about being cruel or vindictive. Real revenge is living well. It's taking the broken pieces of your life and building something beautiful from them. It's refusing to let someone else's betrayal define you. It's standing up, brushing yourself off, and proving to the world and yourself that you're unbreakable. David took 15 years of my life, but he didn't take my strength, my intelligence, or my ability to fight back. And in the end, that made all the difference. If you're watching this and you've experienced betrayal, I want you to know something. You're not alone. What happened to you wasn't your fault. You trusted someone who didn't deserve it, but that says something beautiful about you, not something wrong. It means you're capable of love, of faith, of commitment. Those are gifts, not weaknesses. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed of them. But I also want you to know this. You're stronger than you think. You have the power to fight back, to demand justice, to rebuild your life into something even better than before. It won't be easy. There will be days when the pain feels unbearable, when you want to give up, when you question whether it's worth it. But it is. You are. And someday you'll look back on this moment as the beginning of your transformation from victim to survivor to warrior. My name is Jennifer Walsh, and this is my story. A story of betrayal, yes, but also a story of strength, resilience, and ultimate victory. If my experience can help even one person find the courage to stand up for themselves, to demand better, to refuse to accept betrayal as their fate, then every painful moment was worth it. Thank you for listening. And remember, you are never as powerless as you feel. You are capable of amazing things, even in your darkest moments, especially in your darkest moments.